Hello there, my name is Ryan. I make music under the name Sleeping at Last, and I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to tell you about my music, to tell you all that went into the making of each song. It is such a privilege, and I am so excited to get to talk to you today. This is the Sleeping at Last podcast. Welcome. This episode is all about my new song, Want, which is the sibling song to a recently released song of mine called Have. I call them sibling songs because they're sort of like two sides of the same coin, and they're deeply related to one another. If you haven't already listened to the episode before this one, all about the song Have, I would encourage you to. It's not essential in any way, but I think it provides a little bit of a helpful context for what this song, Want, is all about. Both new songs, Have and Want, belong to my Atlas project, specifically Atlas 3. And Atlas is a trilogy. I'll give you just a very, very brief overview of the concept of Atlas. Essentially, it's 80 songs long, and it has been going on for quite a few years now. It began with Atlas 1, all about the origins of everything. So it begins with a theme of darkness and then light, and then kind of brings the thematic camera closer and closer to us and the human experience. And so I wrote a song for each of the planets in our solar system and each of our oceans. And then Atlas 2 is all about involuntary human development. And so it is about the things that we are born into this world with, that we have no say or control over. And so that included my songs based on the 5 basic senses and the Enneagram. And then now we're in Atlas 3. And Atlas 3 is all about voluntary human development. It's all about our choices. It's what we choose to do with everything that we have, which include my songs Build, Destroy, Have, Want, Believe, Doubt, Hurt, Heal, and songs based on the Greek definitions of love. I like to think of my Atlas project as sort of the past, present, and future. So Atlas 1 is the past, the origins. Atlas 2 is the present. It's just what you show up with. And then Atlas 3 is the future. It's everything that we are aiming towards. Both of these new songs, Have and Want, are about a lot of things, but one common thread between them is control. The illusion that we have control and the desire for more control. In Want, specifically, I wrote about the internal engine that we all have, our hardwiring to constantly push forward. And we call that progress, but I think progress is just control in disguise sometimes, because control provides a whole lot of safety, and that taps into our deep survival instincts. So in a lot of ways, all of the human pursuits of progress, science, medicine, technology, it's all about control to ensure our comfort and safety. So that is what the song is about, and it explores my own personal relationship to all of that. But yeah, I think that's enough context to give you before explaining further. So let's go ahead and listen to the song. This is Want.
Is it by design to be unsatisfied? It keeps the engine on and the fire bright. For centuries over centuries, we burn for more. Is hunger some kind of curse or a driving force? I can't put my finger on what we're driving towards. Mile marker set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. Future medicine could have saved her life, or traded in her pain for a gentler kind. Breakthrough after breakthrough, I'm still surprised The systems we've built to help, we're so paralyzed. So many capable hands were tied. Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. How much of my life will be illuminated by the glow of a little screen? I'm hypnotized. Headline after headline after headline. Cease this brokenness. Were we made for this? To make room somehow for the infinite. To drink the ocean in a single sip. Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. What if the fountain of youth is one step away?
Usually by the time I am finished writing a song, I have a really, really clear idea of what I want the final production of that song to sound like. So I already kind of know what instrumentation I want to aim for. I know the general tone and feel of that song and kind of where I want it to end up. But this song, it was a totally different story. I had first imagined it being this very simple acoustic and guitar folk song, where the lyrics were the focal point and the production would be extremely simple and almost no distractions outside of just paying attention to the lyric. So I actually recorded it that way.
Is it by design to be unsatisfied? It keeps the engine on and the fire bright.
And that acoustic version will be released in the days ahead, and I will share the whole thing at the end of this episode as well. But something about that didn't feel right with the theme. It's all about progress, and it's all about moving forward. So the next idea I wanted to approach was to record it still as a folk song, but with a very clean electric guitar sound. And so I tracked it that way, where still the vocals and the lyric were the focal point, but the electric guitar was sort of the main tone. So I lived with that idea for a little while, and something about it just never felt quite right either. The next production idea that I briefly explored was to make this song a wall-to-wall synthesizer song, as sort of big and cinematic, spacey, electronic kind of thing, which felt like it would fit pretty nicely with the themes I was writing about, science and technology. But after messing around with it for a little while, I just realized that this song at its core is a folk song. And if a more vulnerable guitar and vocal production didn't quite make sense for this, I wondered what it would look like to blend all those different directions that I tried, while still making the lyric the focal point. So then the aim of this song became, how do I make a vulnerable electronic folk song? So first, I took the electric guitar tracks that I had recorded in that version and used it as a vocoder source. If you're not familiar, a vocoder is an effect that you can apply to your vocal to make it sound like very electronic or robotic. I don't know how to explain that better, but I essentially took the vocals that I had recorded in a different version, and then I ran it all through the electric guitar vocoders so that the chords were being generated by the guitar, but it was kind of coming through as an underlayer under the vocals.
By design, satisfied. Keeps the engine on and the fire bright.
After messing around with all that for hours and hours and hours, it eventually felt right to me, and I was able to return to the feeling and the heart of the song. It's sort of like trying to find the right balance of synthetic and organic, or digital and human. And so that became like the folk center of the song, where all of the other ornamental layers could be hung.
Is it by design to be unsatisfied? It keeps the engine on and the fire bright.
So those very first lyrics, is it by design to be unsatisfied? It keeps the engine on and the fire bright. I wanted to start the song from where desire and progress and hunger and want begin, which is dissatisfaction. But that dissatisfaction is what moves us forward. And so that's what I mean in the next set of lyrics.
For centuries over centuries, we burn for more. Is hunger some kind of curse or a driving force? I can't put my finger on what we're driving towards.
Something that I really enjoy doing when I'm writing a song, especially around a very specific theme, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I love to write down a very basic collection of words that make sense with that theme. So it's just sort of like an initial palette of words. And then I have the most fun trying to fit in as many of those words into the final lyric as possible. Even if the song ends up taking an entirely different direction, it sort of gives me a vocabulary to play with. And so for this song, I decided to have a palette of words inspired by the orange level in spiral dynamics. As I mentioned in the previous episode, this song and the previous song Have are in that orange level of spiral dynamics, or they call it a V-meme, which is the part of us that is driven by the belief that progress comes from wanting more and proving it through our results. So orange finds meaning in invention, achievement, and just in forward motion of all sorts. It's responsible for science, medicine, and technology. I had so much fun putting together a little word list, a word palette of spiral dynamics orange-inspired words. So throughout the song, you will hear the words engine, drive, medicine, progress, breakthrough, headline, and screen, which were all words that came from that little word palette. Let's talk about the chorus lyrics.
Mile marker set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say.
Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. Those lyrics are intentionally repeated in each chorus. I like the idea of singing about mile markers and then also using them by repeating them as a mile marker of sorts in the song. That first chorus introduces the very first synth sound in the song, which I felt like kind of had this sonar or like beacon sound, and I really, really like that. So it kind of further underlines the idea of marking our progress.
Look back at all the progress we've made.
Those chorus lyrics are a bit strange in that they are a kind of sad realization that all of these big swings that we've taken, I've taken, all of this reaching doesn't actually add up to invincibility at all. And the lyric that we're speaking up, but death has the final say. On the surface, even though that lyric sounds like being disappointed or being let down, I intentionally sung that in a melody that sounded hopeful to me, because I think that fact that we all know no matter what progress we make at the end of the day, there is a required vulnerability. And that vulnerability is entirely shared with everyone that has ever lived. The next verse lyrics kind of surprised me when I wrote them. As I was thinking through medicine overall and just how absolutely incredible it is that so much pain has been avoided throughout history and how many lives have been impacted and saved by medicine. But I noticed that I felt like a twinge of anger as I was thinking through all of this and learning more. I've talked a lot about this, but my mom passed away very, very unexpectedly a few years ago. And in the short days leading up to her passing, she experienced so much pain, and it was deeply difficult to watch the person that brought my life into existence and the person who's just the most wonderful foundation of love in my life go through that type of pain was genuinely unimaginable to me. It truly surprised me. And so as I was thinking about medicine, I couldn't help but remember that what I wanted for my mom in those really awful days was for the medicine to help her feel more comfortable, to take away her pain, and it didn't. So as I've been grieving over the years, that aspect has always kind of shaken the ground beneath me, that she went through so much like unnecessary pain is what it felt like. And that has shaken a bit of my faith. It has certainly shaken my hopes for medicine. So I really didn't expect for my grief to find a way through this song, but in the rearview mirror, it does make a bit of sense. What I wanted was for my mom to be okay, and I wanted control of that situation, and I wanted comfort. And so that's what I meant in these lyrics.
Future medicine could have saved her life, or traded in her pain for a gentler kind. Breakthrough after breakthrough, I'm still surprised. The systems we've built to help are so paralyzed. So many capable hands were tied.
Underneath that verse of the song, I decided to include a very, very quiet audio clip of my mom's hospital room when she was going through all of the testing and everything. It was conversations with her. It was just the sound of the room. And a few months after my mom passed, I had forgotten about those recordings, and I was digging through my voice memos app, which is part of my songwriting process. Every musical idea I have, I record, even if it's a couple notes. So as I was digging back through, looking for whatever song idea I was looking for, I stumbled upon these recordings from the hospital, and as soon as I pressed play, like within a second, it actually was so painful to be transported to that moment that I think it was the most visceral and painful sound I've ever heard. And it wasn't really the sound itself at all. It just was how vivid the heartbreak was. I didn't want to delete it, but I didn't want to ever go back and listen to it. And I had mentioned that to my therapist at the time, that I stumbled on these recordings, and I was pretty much terrified of them. And in one of the sessions, I decided that I wanted to listen to one of my conversations with my mom, and then talk to my therapist a little bit about that process, almost like exposure therapy. I felt like because it scared me so much and because it felt so difficult, it felt helpful to maybe try to come face to face with it, and rather than be scared and put it away, to actually really look at it. It ended up being this really moving and beautiful time with my therapist, listening to this audio, and but oh my goodness, it was the most heart-wrenching experience I think I've had since losing my mom. Even now, as I'm sharing this, I was like, why would I record anything from that time in the hospital? It was a couple weeks worth of time in the hospital with her, and I think I was desperately trying to hold on to something as I was losing her. So as I wrote those lyrics and as I was completing the song, I had the idea to include some of that audio underneath, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to, because I didn't want to explain it. I didn't want to have to talk about it, and because it was so viscerally painful to hear ever. I didn't want to ever have that feeling again if I heard the song again in the future. And so I really wasn't sure, but ultimately I decided to pick a very, very small clip of just the sound of the room. You can hear a little bit of breathing, and it was one of the quiet moments in one of the most difficult experiences of my life. And so there is something healing to not only talk about it in the same way that when I listened to that audio with my therapist, there's some healing in the confrontation of it. But as I've talked about with the previous song, Have, and with this song, I do think that everything kind of points to the same thing, which is we don't get to have control. I think the probably the healthiest thing in most areas of life is some form of letting go. And so it does feel good to let go of this audio a little bit and to share it. So thank you very much for listening to it. My instincts on the song were to add strings all over the place, especially in this moment of the song. But that felt at odds with the idea of keeping the song digital and rooted in technology. So I thought maybe I'll do synth strings, but that really didn't feel right. And as I was working on that verse about my mom, it felt really vulnerable, and I again just kept feeling like real strings are what are essential, and I needed to somehow make that work. So I broke my own rules for the song, and I grabbed my daughter's rental violin here in London. And first, let me say that I absolutely have no ability to play the violin, like whatsoever. But I can make some textures with it, and that's what I did here. So I recorded a few tremolo notes, and that felt exactly right for this kind of tender moment in the song. So I left the violins in and had assumed that I would return to it and replace it with some other digital synthy sound. But as I wrote more and more layers into the rest of the song, it occurred to me that just in the same way that the main vocal had this digital effect added through the vocoder, I could do that with other organic parts throughout the song. And so I took the real violin notes that I played, and then I added this digital effect on it that sort of distorted it. And so here are the violin notes that I played, but with that digital effect on it. And the same approach was applied to the background vocals that I added, these kind of oohs and ahs throughout the song, which gave them a synth-like feel, but also it had those imperfections of something organic. And here's what those vocals sound like without the effect. Even though they are used sparingly, I had a ton of fun recording some synthesizers. So here is a little sample of some of the things that you'll hear in this song. The next verse in the song is about the incredible little machine that most of us carry around in our pockets. The object of our attention. Well, I should say the object of my attention. I love my phone. I've been in a battle with it for so many years now, trying so very hard to not be on my phone all the time. I don't know if most people have the screen time usage report set up on their phones, but I do, and every Sunday I get this little notification that completely sends chills down my spine, thinking about how much of my life is being spent staring at this tiny electronic window. And I'm not an anti-phone or anti-tech person in any way at all. I love tech deeply, but I do want to constantly work on being more present in my life. And I think having a screen light up your face at all times is a bit at odds with being present. So as I've thought about the heights of human innovation, I naturally thought of our phones and how it is the product of our ceaseless forward motion in convenience and comfort and progress, for better or worse. But these lyrics are kind of a reminder to myself to keep paying attention to that usage report that I get. How much of my life do I actually want to spend being hypnotized by a little screen? I've probably said this on here before, but something that I like to do with my phone usage is I like to imagine that when I pick up my phone to zone out or whatever, I ask myself, do I want to be here right now or somewhere else? And if the answer is yes, I want to be here, which is most often the case, then probably I shouldn't pick up my phone and teleport somewhere else on Instagram or wherever. If the answer is yes, I do want to go somewhere else, like I'm in a waiting room or something, then I am totally delighted to take a little phone trip. But I will be totally honest, even though I have tried to apply that thought in many points of these last few years, it has not helped me all that much. So keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary.
How much of my life will be illuminated by the glow of a little screen? I'm hypnotized.
There are a few little Easter egg sounds in that moment of the song when I'm talking about the phone. The first is the sound of me getting a phone call on my phone, but it's on silent, and so I just recorded the vibration, and I pitched that vibration up so it sounds like it's in the key of this song. Also, around this area, I recorded an instrument that I love. It's an app on the phone. It's called Audanica, and I think it used to be called Sound Prism, but it is such a beautiful little instrument, and so I used that throughout the song, but I also made sure that it is kind of tucked away into this verse. I love that sound, and it sort of sounded to me like being hypnotized. The other little Easter egg is right at the start of the verse. You can hear some Morse code.
We're speaking up, but death has the final say.
And if you can't pick it out, here's what it sounds like soloed. And I generated that Morse code with an app on my phone. And you're probably wondering what it says. So that Morse code says, "Progress is our oldest prayer." The next lyric in the song is, "Headline after headline after headline of ceaseless brokenness. Were we made for this? To make room somehow for the infinite, to drink the ocean in a single sip." This lyric is about capacity. I'm sure many people smarter than me have said this better, but it seems to me that as new technologies have been developed throughout history, people have always had to adjust, but the pace was manageable. But looking back at the last 30 years with the internet, with our just collective access to information about anything and everything from anywhere in the world, which is an incredible thing, seems like a pretty massive leap. And I'm not so sure that we have developed enough discernment or neurological capacity to hold space for it all. So I was trying to touch on that idea in these lyrics.
Headline after headline after headline, ceaseless brokenness. Were we made for this? To make room somehow for the infinite, to drink the ocean in a single sip.
I'll point out a few other little Easter eggs that I've kind of hidden throughout this song. First, I invited my girls, Lily and Iris, to sing with me on a line in this song, so that way they are on both have and want. So the line that they sang is,
"Still so at the end of the day."
Proud dad aside, they sound so good. As I finished the recording this, I asked Lily and Iris if they wanted to be the first people to hear what I did with this song. And because they are still young enough to think that that's a fun idea, they said yes. And I explained to them what the song means and kind of the ideas behind it. And then I asked them if there was if they wanted to help me find a couple Easter eggs to hide throughout this song. And so they quickly came up with a couple ideas. The first one is because I sing about an engine at the front of the song. Lily thought it would be fun to record the sound of a car passing by our apartment. And because of the lyric, to drink the ocean in a single sip, Iris came up with the idea to record the sound of our faucet dripping. Because of the lyric, for centuries over centuries, we burn for more, I recorded the sound of me lighting a match. The last little Easter egg is the sound of a waterfall in Iceland. Let's talk a little bit about the artwork for this song. It was painted by the incredible Alicia Edijanto, and it is so stunning. If you haven't seen it already, I'd encourage you to go check it out. It's on my Instagram or wherever you listen to this song. But it's really, really beautiful. And as always, Alicia was sweet enough to send along the explanation of what she painted and why. In Alicia's words, continuing from the earlier themes, orange moves further into the age of science. The staircase reflects this progression, a man-made and architecturally more complex structure, representing our ongoing ascent toward reason, order, and technology. A staircase also embodies our endless and insatiable pursuit for more. In Want, the man and woman ascend the stairs in haste, symbols of ambition and drive. Yet, their long shadows are a quiet reminder that despite the progress, we are still bound by mortality. I've said it before, and I will keep saying it. She is an absolute genius, and it is such a privilege to get to collaborate with her. Even though there are all sorts of little ways that Have and Want both connect to one another, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys discover some of those little nods and ties in your own time, because I think this feels like a good stopping point in the episode. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being curious about my intentions behind the song. I've probably overstated it, but I cannot thank you enough. Want is available everywhere music is, and I really hope you enjoy it. I will leave you here with an acoustic version of Want, which will release in the weeks ahead. But have a really wonderful rest of your day. Speak soon.
Is it by design to be unsatisfied? It keeps the engine on and the fire bright. For centuries over centuries, we burn for more. Is hunger some kind of curse or a driving force? I can't put my finger on what we're driving towards. Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but not quite safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. Future medicine could have saved her life, or traded in her pain for a gentler kind. Breakthrough after breakthrough, I'm still surprised. The systems we've built to help were so paralyzed. So many capable hands were tied. Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable but we're not safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. How much of my life will be illuminated by the glow of a little screen I'm hypnotized. Headline after headline after headline of ceaseless brokenness. Were we made for this? To find the room somehow for the infinite, to drink the ocean in a single sip. Mile markers set in place. Look back at all the progress we've made. Comfortable, but we're not safe. Still so vulnerable at the end of the day. We're speaking up, but death has the final say. What if the fountain of youth is one step away?